Well, all right. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It is April 23rd. This is Michael Watson, and this is the IACT IMDHA Presenters Series. I have a couple of announcements for you before we get underway. This is, as Linda just mentioned, some of you may have heard our last in this series of 15 calls. We have been with you since, the middle of January, and it's been a wonderful collection of calls and talks with some great people. But I do want to tell you about one of IACT and IMDHA's best kept secrets, and that is the virtual chapter. So for those of you who have gotten used to this sort of thing, virtual chapter meets once a month. It meets on the second Tuesday of each month. Same login, same everything that you've got for tonight. And the next meeting will be on May 9th. And our guest at that meeting is going to be Wendy Friesen. And for those of you who maybe don't know Wendy, she's been doing hypnosis since about 1994. I understand she started, and I remember her from all of those years back. She's been going great guns and runs a heck of a business online. And she is currently on a mission to change the way that the world treats addiction. And so we're going to be talking about that in particular. So it should be a pretty good virtual chapter meeting. So May 9th, again, that's the second Tuesday in May, right here at the same back channel that you're on now. So please be sure and join us. Just mark your calendar, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. But now you know why we're here tonight, of course. We are getting ready and getting excited about the HypnoExpo, which is from May 19th through the 21st. And then there are some pre- and post-conference programs, as you are aware, the days immediately before and after that. And all of the information that you can use to familiarize yourself with the conference and with the great speakers. In fact, there are 55 of them. And the special topics that you might be personally interested in. You can find those things on www.hypnoexpo2017.com. So go out to that website, and you can go ahead and register for the expo at the same time while you're out there if you haven't taken care of that already. You can get CEUs for being on this call tonight. Just go out to the website for the association that you are a member of, whether it's IACT or IMDHA or perhaps both. And when you log in with your ID, your member ID and password, a little box pops up that gives you the opportunity to enter in your CEUs. So just tell them, you were here for an hour on the teleconferences, and you want your hour's worth of credit, and they will give you credit where credit is due. The recording for tonight's program will be available tomorrow. It'll be posted on the IACT IMDHA forum, but also if you go out to hypnoexpo2017.com or either of the association websites, you can just click on the link up at the top of the page that says Media, and you'll find the Hypnocaster under there, which has all of the programs that we've done so far. Or if you click on the link that says Conference, you'll find, again, something that says Teleconferences, and there are links for every single talk that we've had so far in this series. So go out there and check them out if you want to hear something again, or if you want to share it with friends, whatever it is. That will be the place to find all of that stuff. So now, tonight, we are speaking with Jason Linett. And I want to say, I was thinking the other day that some of you were at the virtual chapter last month, and we talked with Tim Shore. And you might remember Tim. Tim is a heck of a motivated guy and a great speaker. And I thought after the fact, that I know how ridiculously cliche and silly it sounds, but I thought after the fact, Tim makes me want to be a better person. And what I mean by that is, he's so enthusiastic, he's so vivacious and gregarious that, that people just kind of want to be around him. I sort of have the same feeling about Jason, and which is why I particularly wanted to mention it. He was a guest on the virtual chapter here in January, and he is so enthusiastic about what he does. He has so much passion at what he's up to, along with just a tremendous amount of knowledge that he's a real inspiration to all of us. So I'm looking forward to talking to him tonight. So welcome, Jason.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Now, I'm going to say a couple more things. That's sort of mid-introduction here, but I just want to mention that Jason operates Virginia Hypnosis, located in Alexandria, Virginia. He maintains a full schedule of clients, which is precisely the reason that you want to be listening to him tonight. He does some live trainings across the country, and he operates regular training events online to an international audience. He does the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast every single week, featuring hypnosis training, business strategy, and conversations with practitioners around the world. And that particular program, in fact, has been downloaded more than 50,000 times.
We're up to 85,000 now, but I'll let you
probably because I did at least like 15 of them, 15,000 of them in the last, in the last couple of weeks.
It's fun because I can tell the day that someone discovers it and the downloads spike all at once.
Yeah, that's it. It's really great stuff. And well, we're just thrilled to have you with us, Jason, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the conference and and to sharing your topic. And here we are talking about this thing that every hypnotist has heard about. Somebody has, in fact, told us all. And in fact, I keep telling my students, what you need to do is you need to get in front of people and talk about it. And the topic, of course, is empowering your practice with live talks. So here we are.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled about it. So I guess maybe one of the places to start, because obviously the reason that we're having this conversation is so that people can understand what it is that's going on at the conference in particular, and what it is that you'll be offering out there, and hopefully, as we talk tonight as well, that they can pick up some tips and things that they'll be able to use even between now and then. So what I'm wondering is, if I were to sign up for your class, what's the takeaway? By the way, let me mention that your class is on Monday. It is on Monday the 22nd. So for those of you who are coming to the conference, make sure that you hang out for that extra day. What a terrible thing that you have to spend an extra day in Florida on Daytona Beach, but I think you'll be able to manage it. What's the takeaway? What are we going to do from attending your workshop?
Well, the takeaway would be that, we're talking about something that, like you mentioned, nearly anyone who ever goes through any hypnosis training, this is very often the one piece of advice that they'd be given, to get out into their community and give live talks. And chances are the couple of dozen or people who are on this program right now, they've heard that advice too, and maybe they've actually taken that advice and put it into use. Though classically, as I interact with hypnotists around the world, they're doing this, and yet then the phone doesn't ring. So it's that understanding that it's not just the getting out there and being seen, and that is massively beneficial. I'd separate all the things you do in your business to being passive and active strategies. This is an active strategy, and visibility, just being known, is a huge step that you can really jumpstart that business with. Though there's got to be strategies behind it to really make it work. And that's what this upcoming program is all about. Hypnotic Talks empower your hypnosis business with live presentations. So we're going to be getting into the blueprint of, first of all, how do you design a program that people will actually respond to? Because as much as you and I love this hypnosis profession, I'll be one of the first to tell you that very often they don't want a hypnosis talk. Why? Because it's not what they're looking for. And if you've ever blasted out emails or made phone calls and gotten no's in response to that. In fact, I did a webinar on this topic a little while ago, which I'll share a URL to make that webinar available to everybody too, with a little bit more detail on giving talks, that when I set that out there, people were responding, yeah, but I tried that and people didn't want the talk. And that's the first flaw. They don't know that they need to talk on hypnosis. So one of the takeaways is how to niche down your presentation in such a way that really makes them ravenous for that presentation. Now you're going to be in front of that group, presenting your topic, presenting your information, positioning yourself as that expert, and providing quality information. And then the next step from there is to get even better information. To take that next step, that's where they come in and make use of your service. So one of the takeaways is how to niche down your presentation in such a way that, first of all, they'll actually let you in the door and give that presentation. Mm-hmm. Remember, it's not just hypnosis, it's also a hypnosis business. So I'll be sharing with you some of the strategies that I have used myself to leave one of these events where classically, you'd unfortunately have the moment of, well, they fed me breakfast, they were nice, or they fed me lunch and it went well, as opposed to I get everybody in the room on a mailing list. And not only are people there at the event now taking that next step to book with me at a high dollar amount, but they're also engaging in my marketing streams. And then when they're ready, that's when they take that step and they're then calling me and then booking those appointments.
Nice.
So it's taking this whole strategy and applying the filters on top of it. As a bigger picture perspective with your hypnosis business, it's very rarely the platform, it's almost always the strategy. Is the phrase that I'd stand by. So the question of how do I make this work better? You know, there are people who have tried Facebook marketing and it didn't work for them. I make use of it. It does extremely well for me. So the platform is just the platform. It's the strategies that you use to make that thing work better. And the specific reason that I wanted to share this one-day post-conference offering is that whenever I start to talk about webinars and Facebooks and websites, there is a collection of us in the hypnosis profession that the eyes begin to glaze over in such a way that you might be able to yell the word sleep and turn it into an induction. So empower your hypnosis business with live talks. This is a low tech, low stress, no cost to low cost method. And my backstory is that this is one of the strategies that I used when I first opened up Virginia Hypnosis. And within the first month, I had a packed office. So to give you the actual strategies in terms of how to position that presentation, how to make that offer, how to deliver the presentation, how to appropriately fold in hypnotic demonstrations, and then more specifically, well, why are you there? How to then effectively and ethically convert that audience into your paying clients.
Nice. And in fact, what I'm hearing is something that I really appreciate. I think that there's a lot of people starting out and just misconceptions. How do we get people to know about this? And I can appreciate that a new hypnotist might be very excited about hypnosis and might also be very excited about what they learned. But I have a little tick mark here on my own notes because in your course description, just exactly that thing about niching down the presentation, I thought that was so important because I can't tell you how many hypnotists that I know that think that if they're going to talk about hypnosis, what they have to do is to take that hour and say everything that they possibly know about this vast field of study. So much so that it's overwhelming. I've even seen new hypnotists do this in practice so that they're finally ready to do the induction after the client has been listening to them for an hour and a half, talking about how hypnosis works and neurology and hypnotic suggestions and how long it takes to change a habit and whatever, whatever else they can do. So it's a really important thing that I think you're highlighting there. And
well, I think one of the real filters that, and this is the difference between a lot of marketing strategies that people would be afraid of. If you look at the podcasts that I do, Work Smart Hypnosis, if you look at a lot of the webinars, the videos that I put out, I don't know if this is bragging rights, but I put out more free content than most people in hypnosis are selling.
Yeah.
And the filter is the same filter as to how do you deliver a presentation in such a way that you're delivering valuable content, you're building that rapport with the audience, yet you're also leaving them in that place where they want more. And it comes back to the classic game of show and tell. To ride that balance between show and tell. And you want to tell them what it is that you do. You want to tell them how they can make improvements in their life. Yet the real show becomes this moment of this is how we can fold in hypnotic demonstrations in that presentation. Mm-hmm. And I'll be covering the differences, the nuances as to when and where I feel you should make use of a group demonstration, suggestibility tests, when are the appropriate moments to pull up one person and really nail that demo in such a way that creates a memorable moment, but also specifically, how do you give them just the right amount of information that is establishing that credibility, positioning you as a person who can help them out, but then it's never an upsell. And I can credit actually Ryan Dice, who's an online marketer for this concept, completely banish the idea of an upsell. Instead, you're always upgrading. So with the free information that you've gained from this event today, Here's what you can do. However, I know some of you need a little bit more help.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
that, here's my service. For that, here's my course. For that, here's this training event. For that, here's this product.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that filter between show and tell. And you're always answering the question of, how can I make that easier for you? So I'll give you a simple example. You're going to be going to a business networking group, and rather than give them the all about hypnosis talk, give them 3 specific bullet points of how to hypnotically enhance your public speaking. For anybody in this audience who has ever worked with a client for public speaking improvement, you could craft that presentation in a matter of minutes. You then fold in some hypnotic demonstrations to highlight those teaching points. And I know that most of you can make use of what I've shared with you today and start to see some improvements in your presentations. However, I know some of you could use more help for that. And for that, let me talk to you about fill in the blank your business.
Sure.
Which is actually a very non-salesy way of doing it, because you're offering valuable content, you're educating, and you're pointing out that for those that need more help, which by doing it in the proper way, that's going to be a large number of your audience.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's why they came to the speech, right? They didn't come to your presentation in order to be sold. They came to your presentation in order to be educated or entertained or something. And right, and of course, if you say something that's interesting enough, or that lets them know that this could be valuable to them, then
which consider this a bit of a crash course in content marketing. That yes, the one-day event, Hypnotic Talks, is going to be focused, laser focused on giving presentations. Though these are the same filters that fold into what you put on your website, that what you put into your online marketing, what you put into your conversation with a client on the phone. That by providing that valuable content, you are establishing that credibility and setting yourself apart as that person who can clearly help them out and understand what they need.
Nice, nice. So I have a trick question for you.
Yeah.
It's not too much of a trick. You'll be fine with it, I'm sure. But so the idea of this, of course, is it's a way to build your practice, and the title is Empowering Your Practice with Live Talks. What about people who already have a thriving practice? What do you got? What do you got for them?
Outstanding. Great question. What's in it for people who already have a thriving practice? And the metaphor could be the house can always stand to use a couple of renovations. Because if your practice is already thriving, here's a little thought. Consider this little metaphor of a sales funnel that you've often heard before, that you're casting out that net in such a way that the wide opening at the top is bringing more people in. And then from there, they're going through these channels of communication to then raise their hand and say, I'm ready to work with you. Here's the statement. And actually, Sunday at the Expo, I'm going to be doing a 1-hour workshop just on how to design a hypnotic sales funnel in the appropriate way. The takeaway, though, is the more that you position yourself at the end of that funnel, the higher of a premium your service now has. So if your practice is already thriving, I can already start to make some assumptions here. In order to grow your business, you either need to add more hours, or you need to increase your rates, or you need to add on products and other related services. So if your practice is already thriving, that's a cue that things are getting a little tight in terms of time and energy. I work very specific hours. I've got 2 small children for the next 4 hours under 6. The oldest turns 6 in 3.5 hours. So then I'll say I've got 2 small children under 7. So I'm very strict with my hours. So I am not willing to add more hours to my business. Instead, I'm looking to position myself at the end of that funnel. And when you do that, you're now a premium service. They've already been interacting with you. If you want the simplest of examples, look at Tony Robbins. You can buy the books. You can watch the documentary on Netflix. You can get these training courses. You can attend the 1-day event, the 2, the 3-day event, and all the way down to this private island thing, which is multiple thousands of dollars. That to get the actual one-to-one time at the end of that funnel, that's where it's at a premium. So to be the person out in the community, they're already getting the experience of it. For those people that, my one reference for this is my pop cultural references tend to select a lot of people out, because this goes back to The Simpsons when Phil Hartman was still alive, when he played Troy McClure.
Yeah.
And he'd get up
Yeah.
and say, "Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from," and there'd be some random reference of a TV show or movie. So it's the Troy McClure effect is what I call this, that by being that person that they've seen, this is the same value that videos have online. They're getting to interact with you. They're going to learn what it's like to work with you before they work with you. They get to learn what it's like to take a class from you before they take a class from you. And by positioning yourself at the end of the funnel, well, first of all, we've only been talking about increasing the premium, the value of your service. The secondary benefit, though, becomes kind of back to your comment about the pre-talk. If you've already heard me say those things, I don't have to repeat them. So I'll give you a simple example of a web version on the Virginia Hypnosis website on the Stop Smoking page. There's a video with me with a big glass jar of cigarettes that clients have thrown out. And when a client calls and says, "Oh yeah, I watched that Stop Smoking jars video," that's 5 minutes of information I don't have to talk about now.
Nice.
Which may sound cold, but the benefit now becomes that client is walking into my office, cigarettes in hand, already ready to throw them out. And how much better of a place is it to kick off the session from there?
Nice.
So the same mechanism applies from the live talk. It's an opportunity to get in front of another audience and build that credibility, build that value, and now you're at the end of the stream. Your sales process is going to be shortened, and your value is going to be increased.
Nice.
Those are good things.
Nice. Now, you said earlier, you said, look at Tony Robbins. So that took me a couple of minutes, tall guy. And then, but yeah, look at Tony Robbins and look at Troy McClure. Look at you. Look at Tim Scher that I mentioned earlier, or so many of the 55 speakers that we've got at the expo.
Yeah.
And and they're people that are used to getting up in front of groups and giving talks and doing all sorts of stuff. And then on the other hand, we run into students who say, "Well, I'm just not comfortable. I'm not as comfortable as Jason is, or I'm not as outgoing as Tim is, or I'm not as dynamic as Tony Robbins is, or do you have something to help people with that stuff?"
Yeah. Did you know that hypnosis is really, really good for improving public speaking confidence?
What an interesting concept.
I know. Who'd have thunk it? I have to credit Sean Michael Andrews for one of my favorite lines on this, that it's in a different context, but we all wish we could call back our first client and say, "No, really, I got better. Please come back."
Yeah, sure.
So there's two sides to this. The first is we'll start with the positive, then we'll go to the negative, which will then come back to a positive. So the first positive is we all start somewhere. We all start somewhere. You have to begin somewhere to get this up and running, so it's why it's so valuable in a hypnosis training that you get to practice a lot, because then you're building that confidence and you're getting better at doing it. So just by getting out there and doing it, you're going to be working that muscle. You're going to be building that nuance, building that value. It's why I'd highly recommend, even if it doesn't end up on a website somewhere, this great value in bringing along a video camera, even if it's just for your education to watch yourself. There are certain verbal idiosyncrasies that disappeared by the 20th episode of my podcast.
Yeah.
Go back and listen for yourself, because I edited the first 20 and it's me going, I really keep saying that, don't I? Little sort of connecting phrases that were just verbal diarrhea filling in the blanks. So it's the easiest thing to do to get better by doing it. There's an incredible documentary called Comedian. And it's the story of Jerry Seinfeld after the TV show came off the air, and crashing comedy clubs and working off of a legal pad. And he's not doing well. And it's amazing to watch someone of that caliber in process, which brings about the second point, which is that in terms of getting started with this tactic, what are we talking about here? We're talking about Rotary groups. We're talking about local civic groups, local nonprofits. So here comes the negative phrase, which will turn into a positive. Most of their speakers suck, to say it politely. Most of their speakers are very dry presentations. They are standing behind the lectern. They are gripping that thing in terror, and they are talking about local government policy, local fundraising efforts, and it's just the fact style presentation. You as a hypnotist, you get to walk into any room and you already have the understanding you have the most interesting job of anybody in that room.
Yeah.
So there's the foot in the door right away. So starting from the baseline, which is actually relatively quite low, that for the most part, these groups that you're going to start with targeting are not used to having a very dynamic speaker. You know, it's going to be this person talking about their local educational event at this place, this local city council member talking about an update in a local policy. That's the type of presentation they normally have.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who is there with their little remote glued to their PowerPoint presentation. Little bonus, I'm going to teach you how to do PowerPoint in a way that doesn't suck because most people using it, they are just staring at the thing with the audience. There's a little nuance if you're going to make use of the technology that makes it a very interactive and fun thing to use, or leave it at home as I've been doing.
I so appreciate that, because I don't ever use PowerPoint, only because I've just seen so many examples of it being done so badly.
The key is it's there to accent as it is to read the words for you that you're going to say.
Yeah, or I've seen speakers use PowerPoint as their notes.
Right.
You know, I don't really remember this talk. So
I use them as notes for myself, but it's not the dialogue of what I'm saying. It's an image, it's a picture, it's something to get a laugh, but more and more I'm pulling that away. So back to your original question about the confidence for the new practitioner. You're going into an arena that isn't used to having this dynamic of a presentation. So by folding in a simple hypnotic suggestibility test or two of that nature is immediately going to set you apart.
Magnetic finger.
There's a little, the finger magnets, the light and heavy arms, the old circle test thing. There is a moment of theatrics that I specifically will use in almost all of my presentations, that they'll have that lectern there ready to go. And the first thing I'll say is, hey, great, where can I put this? I don't need it. Which immediately is my cue to the audience for buckle up. This is different.
Nice.
Yeah.
That bar firmly in place, ready to go.
As opposed to, I came from a background originally working in management and theater. So I was the guy sitting at the little folding table organizing rehearsals. And the community theater amateur actor would be the one who had to dock. They had to stand behind the sofa. They lean on the door frame, as opposed to the one who could just stand there and just feel comfortable. Which we have the tool of our hypnotic communication. Hey, everybody, this is fun. Clap your hands, extend your fingers, feel those magnets pulling closer together. So by building in that interaction, which you already know how to do, and I'll give you some nuances to punch those up and make them even more effective. But that alone is going to make you a much more dynamic speaker than perhaps you're already giving yourself credit for.
Great. Now, you know, Jason, there are some people probably in our audience who have already done this, and it just didn't work out for them, and they came out with a conclusion that no, this really isn't a good idea. What do you got to say to encourage people to get back after it?
Yeah, again, it goes back to the statement I shared a little while ago, and I see we still have some people who are logging in. I see Sam just logged in. Sam lives closer to my office than I do. Hey, Sam. Thanks for the gang sign. So it's the statement of that in terms of your business, it's always the strategy. It's very rarely the platform. So it kind of goes back to even our hypnosis training. As I've gone to various conventions over the years, I'd hear people say that technique doesn't work for that. Oh, no, you can't do a Dave Ellman induction for that style of client. Oh, no, you can't do a progressive muscle relaxation induction for that style of client. Oh, if you're doing a show in this environment, you can't do instant inductions.
Sure.
The better question to always ask is, how do I make that work better? So this is the filter behind all things in our business. So it's very rare for me to say that this one thing doesn't work, that doesn't work, because it's instead, how do we finesse the system? On my podcast, we just had Dan Perez talking about Yelp, and he's talking about it in such a way that that's driving the majority of his business. So it's not the fact of whether or not Yelp is a good thing or a bad thing, it's specifically how Dan made that work for him. Mm-hmm. That's the filter we're going to be going into inside of Hypnotic Talks. How do we make this thing work better? So it folds in a couple of things in terms of how do you structure the presentation so they'll actually let you in the door to do the thing? How do you actually organize the information in such a way that you are drawing in that audience and getting them to listen to you? And then specifically, we are talking about business here. How do you structure that offer in such a way? Those of you that have seen me talk at various hypnosis conventions, the same strategy I use at a convention came from the strategy that I use inside of my presentations, even just to get out there and grow Virginia hypnosis, where I'll give you a preview of something. There'd often be the strategy of I'll stand at the back of the room and I'll have my business cards ready. And if you're curious, just come see me and I'll hand you one of these. That's what most of us are told to do. Mm-hmm. There's a mechanism, which is a slightly ethical, persuasive strategy that I'll use, which is that I am getting that room to want more information from me. And I make that offer. And then I make that offer again. And then only after I have gotten the entire room to virtually opt into my offer do I then give them a mechanism to get that information. So they're making that first buy. It's where I don't want you selling hypnosis. I don't want you selling the results. I want you selling the next step. And the next step is to have that group of people to raise their hand and say, I'm interested. It kind of goes back to the metaphor I always use, which was that, to date the story back about, having to do the math, about 8 years or actually 13 years ago, if I walked up to Michelle at the time and said, you and I are going to get married and we're going to have children, it wouldn't have gone well. Or she has a good sense of humor, it might have. But it's about 13 and a half years ago that I first asked my now wife to go out with me. And then we dated, then we moved in, then I proposed, then we got married, and then we got the dog. The dog led into 2 kids, as the routine goes. So the metaphor here is that you've tried this before, it didn't work for you. Many people in their businesses, not just hypnotists, are trying to consummate the marriage before the first date.
Sure.
Call this number to book your sessions.
Yeah.
You got to take them out for coffee and drinks first.
Yeah.
And I'll show you the metaphorical ways to do that in a way that you're getting that group to interact with you, to then take that. It's all Dave Ellman in structure, bypassing that critical faculty, and then the widening of that hypnotic wedge. The foot's in the door, the foot's in the door, the foot's in the door, in such a way that it doesn't feel. Sales gets a bad name because most people do it badly. Mm-hmm. I'm going to teach you how to do it goodly.
Goodly. Excellent. Bigly as well.
Bigly. Ooh, too soon. Too close to where we're about to be.
Yeah. Well, great. So I'll tell you what, let me just let people know that, because the time is going along, it is 48 minutes after the hour. If people have any questions, if anyone has any questions for Jason, the way that you can ask those questions is, we do have you all muted, so I apologize for that, but we need to do that for background noise and such. So if you're on the telephone rather than the computer, you can press *9, and what that will do is it will raise your hand. I'll be able to know that you have a question, and then I will open up your microphone and call on you. Or the other option is, if you are online, you can go into the participants box, probably down at the bottom of your screen, or depending on what software you're using. If you're on your phone or on an iPhone or an iPad, it might be a little bit differently, but there's a menu for participants, and it lists all the participants. In fact, Frank has found a way to raise his hand, which he has just done, and I'm going to call on him in just a minute here. But if you click on that participants box, it'll open up a list of names of all the people on the call, and at the very bottom of that list, there's just a little blue tab that says raise hand, and you can click on there to raise your hand. And the other option, if all else fails, is you'll also see down at the bottom that there's a chat box you can open, and if you type in the chat box, I have a question, that will work as well. And we'll call on you. So Frank, I am lowering your hand and I am unmuting you. Oops, hold on a minute. That didn't do what I wanted it to do. Now, Frank, you are unmuted. You have a question?
Yeah, I am thinking. So I guess my question is: you're getting started out with a lot of these groups, with Rotary, with Alliance Club, whatever. Do you how do you get your foot in the door to give the call? Do you start cold calling these groups? Do you how do you generally make contact when you're first starting to do live talks?
Yeah, good question, Frank. And good to see you again. Been a couple of months. What I'd reference is there's two strategies that are going to be working, actually three strategies all at the same time to really map it out. What you brought up is the first strategy, because we start somewhere, and I'll be showing you inside of this presentation how to do some of the legwork online in terms of how to find these groups, how to track down which businesses maybe have some sort of health and wellness thing, a lunch and learn type thing. So simply crafting that message in such a way, which I'll give you a little freebie here, which is that whenever you make the offer, give them an offer for at least two presentations, which is going to be a little bit of a hypnotic strategy here of a double bind. Hey, Frank, I've got two presentations that I can offer for your group, either option A or option B. Which of these two do you think would be the best for your group? And it's a little bit of an implied close, but you're inviting the question of this one or that one versus, hey, you want to do this, yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
The second strategy, though, is to make use of your own personal network. So this is just one strategy inside of the entire web of how you can grow your business. So maybe you're doing some sort of business networking, which isn't the more formal, I'm going to stand up and talk to this group.
I did just join BNI.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And, at a BNI, you could get up and, again, niche rhymes with rich. So niche it down. The same way that you've heard me before in some of the content you've heard from me. I'm looking for that person who just bought an e-cigarette because they want to quit smoking. I'm looking for a person, the cicadas are flying into the area. Who do you know that has a fear of bugs? Niching it down to that laser focused thing. But in the same way, hey, the other day I just gave a presentation for the American Oncological Association. And during that 20-minute presentation, I gave their staff 3 strategies to reduce their stress. What businesses do you know of locally that would benefit from this type of presentation? I'd appreciate a warm introduction. So to use the leverage point of talks you've already done. The third strategy is that you've just given a presentation. And it's the moment where they're raving and they're so excited. And I borrow this theme from a now out of print fundraising book in nonprofits that was called Don't Applaud, Just Send Money. And instead for our filter here, it's the don't applaud, tell everyone else you know. When they're raving, this is the key to getting referrals from clients too. When they're raving, when they're excited, when they want to tell the entire world, you then tell them what they can do to make that happen. Hey, what other groups do you know that would benefit from this presentation? Oh, this one. Could you facilitate a warm introduction? Could you send an email to them and CC me, please, so I can follow up? So all of these strategies blend and merge together. It's often how even from clients to fold in an extra one. Hey, do they ever do like a lunch and learn at your office? Okay, great. I'll send you an email with something you can forward to the decision makers. Sound good? Mm-hmm. So you're kind of blending everything together. But some of the coolest places I ever got to talk actually came from my BNI group that I used to be a member of, because that's what I would get up and ask for. Because anyone could email the Rotary, the Kiwanis, the PTA group, all those things. But the ones that even I didn't know how to target came about from the membership of people that I was there in front of. And then, the way that all becomes the spider web. Here was a local Rotary group that then this eye doctor connected me with his brother, the dentist, who then had me speaking to a group of dentists, which I didn't know that group existed, so I wouldn't have known to Google them and search them down. So how do you build these leverage points? That's one of the filters. But again, it's this mixture of the cold introduction and the warm introduction, and eventually the warm takes over the cold.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Nice. And by the way, I heard that at the. I'm glad you mentioned the eye doctors and the dentists and and all of that, because at the beginning of Frank's question, I heard him say something that I think I've heard other people say. I don't even know if he said it, if he knows that he said it rather. But he said something about so you go to the Kiwanis and the Rotary or whatever.
Yep.
and moved right on beyond that. I think those are sort of two of the things that everybody thinks of first, Kiwanis and Rotary. And it seems like, and pardon me for saying it this way, but it seems like the whatever suggested that nobody's really interested in talking to the Kiwanis or the Rotary. And maybe
when I tell you the simple story of here's a local Rotary group that I actually know for a fact another hypnotist in the area spoke at this group probably about 8 years ago before I did it. and I did the presentation. And there's local Alexandria City Rotary, which has like 150 members.
Mm-hmm.
But this group is closer to where my home is, where there's like 20 members. And at first thought, you'd think, oh, not as good of a turnout, huh? Of those 20 members, 4 came in as clients. My clients come in for a package of sessions, which is about $1,000. They then also connected me with the local high school that the Interact group is the high school version of Rotary. And I've been doing a show at that high school ever since then.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then this one was then sending referrals. So you look at this, and immediately within 2 to 3 years, it was a $10,000 income from the 20-minute presentation I did at the Rotary group. And again, I keep booking that high school over and over. This faculty member moved to another school, and I'm now working that school. These people saw me at that program, and then they came in as clients. So it's where it really begins to build this web. So there's no or whatever, and I know that wasn't Frank's intention. There's no or whatever, because it's, again, I always refer to, you hear of word of mouth business, and very often you get several mouths who really run your business. Here's this one woman that there's not a week that goes by that I don't have a client who's, those of you that are in my online communities or listen to the webinar, the story of the picky 14-year-old eater who goes, I made food my fill in the blank. There's not a week that goes by that there's not someone in my office now by way of some referral stream from that one family. So everything becomes a leverage point in your business.
Great. Actually, by the way, I wasn't necessarily meaning to suggest, I have no idea what Frank's intent was with that question or phrase. But the thing that I thought was interesting about it to me was that I think the first place that we think of are the Rotary and the Kiwanis, and there's so many other choices. There are singles groups. We have a thing here in Orlando, and maybe it's other places as well. It's one of the meetups, and it's called like 1 in 50 million or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a regular meetup group that has like so many different activities, and some of them are personal growth things that they invite speakers into and stuff. And it's it's really a large group. Having spent some time in the position of being the guy that gets speakers for an organization, what I know is when people take that job, when they first take the job, they think, oh yeah, I'll take the job because I know about 4 people that could talk to this group. And then the 5th month rolls around, and they're like, oh my God, why did I say I would do this? Now I have to get somebody. So if anybody has this concern that I don't think they're going to really be interested in my talk, there are people out there just hoping for God's sake that you will call them and offer to do a presentation as well.
No, it's where you're right. There's a need for this, and you're actually doing them a favor by sending that offer. The gut reaction is to say no when it sounds like a sales pitch, because that's what they don't want, especially these meetup groups. I've done singles groups as well. And when it smacks of the, hey, I want to come to your group and make this offer, that's when they automatically say no. So to learn the strategies, the nuances of how do you make that offer in such a way that anywhere that there's a group of people, you can custom design your program in such a way that honestly doesn't take a lot of effort to deliver a high quality program. And again, this is the key to content marketing. You want people leaving with value whether they come to you or not. But by providing that value, they're more likely now to come to you. And that's the strategy that I used when I launched my business and had a packed schedule within the first month.
Right. Great. Well, listen, Jason, our time is just about running out. I see that we've got a minute left to go. So do you have any final words?
Yeah, I'd encourage you to think bigger about your business. So that's what this workshop is all about. And especially when our modern era is one of one new technology function after another, and this place where often we'd unfortunately end up staring at our computer screens trying to figure out how the hell to make something work. This is bringing it back to the basics, but by applying the right strategies to your presentation, how to make your phone ring, how to book those clients, and really make those profits grow. And there's implications of what I'll be sharing with you that'll spread over to everything else you do. Business is business. And when you learn how to ethically and effectively sell your service, The benefit is the more skilled as a hypnotist that I've become, the more skilled as a business owner I've become, the more skilled as a hypnotist I've become, because you're getting that hands-on practice, you're getting that value of actually doing the work. And surprisingly, the journey from curious shopper to here's my credit card is very similar to here's my problem and here I am now inside of my solution. We're always navigating a person from a state of challenge to a state of solution. So I know that as often I talk to hypnotists, they'd have some preconceived notions about, oh, I'm not a business person. The reason I talk about hypnosis in business goes back to when someone said, oh, I'm more interested in helping my clients. Well, the truth is, when you learn how to run an effective and massively successful business, you help even more people.
That's right. By the way, you said you have a background in theater. I have a really good friend who was a director in Chicago. And I remember one day somebody was saying something about, oh, I just love the theater. I just love putting on plays. I love being in plays. Somebody that was in a cast or something, and how excited they were to be a member of this company and stuff like that. And I remember that they were trying to do some marketing at the time. And I remember that she turned and she snapped at him because she's very artistic, very creative and everything. But on the other hand, there's the other side of her head that says, they call this show business.
Right.
And I think we really have got to remember that if we don't do the business, then we don't get to do this thing that we love doing, called working with and helping people and making a difference.
Well, in the words of Michael Gerber from the book, The E-Myth Revisited, you're not just the technician, you're also the entrepreneur, you're also the manager. So if you're not doing all these things, it's this tripod that's now no longer level. So you've got to be working in your business as well as on your business.
Great. Well, all right. So let me just remind everybody that you can get CEUs for having listened to this, an extra added value here by going out to the website for IACT IMDHA, logging in with your member ID, and just filling in the form that says that you spent an hour online with us. And go to www.hypnoexpo.com, where you can find the recording of this presentation. It'll be there tomorrow. And while you're there, of course, you can register for the conference, unless, which is probably the case, you will have already done that this evening. And then
whether you've already signed up or you sign up tonight.
That's right.
There you go.
And then on May 9th, second Tuesday of the month, join us at the same login at 8 o'clock East Coast time for the virtual chapter, where we'll have Wendy Friesen as our guest. So now, Jason, I'm going to say goodnight to you.
Let me throw in one more quick thing that I mentioned earlier, that I mentioned there was a webinar that I also did on this same topic, promoting the same event. And give me 30 seconds after this event closes to make this link work. If you go to worksmarthypnosis.com/talk 2017, that'll redirect you over to the replay of that webinar. Again, worksmarthypnosis.com/talk 2017.
And Jason, could you type that in the chat window as well?
Yes. So again, those of you that are with us live, 30 seconds after this event closes, that link will work.
Yes.
Assuming the online gremlins are beneficial and friendly tonight.
Excellent. And what I'm going to do now is, like I said, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You've been a wonderful guest, and such great stuff to hear from you. I would love to come to your presentation, and I'm going to be presenting in another room at the same time. So I'll
come to yours. You come to mine. Sound good?
I'm a little disappointed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That'll be fine. First. Sure. So, and now I'm going to do the wild and crazy thing that I always do at the end of these calls, and that is so that everybody else gets a chance to give you a shout out and say goodnight. I'm going to unmute the whole gaggle of folks that are on this call, and we'll see what craziness happens before we disconnect. So good night, everybody. And I was going to say see you next Sunday, but I guess that won't be the case. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.